get into the auction, Don Heimberger has a word to say.
You know, through the years, we've had so much fun with Charlie Getz that I had to, for tonight, compose an ode to Charlie Getz. So here it is. Charlie, Charlie, we owe you so much. You're our pal, our hero, our unfailing crutch. You've made us laugh, you've made us cry. I think you've even made some of us die. Your jokes, some ringing so true, you're an artful master among a chosen few. Your wit, so revealing and so clever, we're often contorted by your endeavor. From brass 280s to expandable latex foam rocks, we soak up your wisdom into our vascular system and rightly figure you're a pretty sly fox. Your clever sayings and quick humor play games with our minds, all the while tickling our innards and blurring the lines of rational things that you make seem like twisted vines. The years of satire and droll amusement now apparently ending, except on this evening's occasion, which continues the bending of our docile minds and our hearts as you wish. But really, Charlie, you're still the big fish who makes us come apart at the seams, and we're loving it again to the extremes. Thank you, Charlie.
So without further ado, I'll present the Charlie Getz Show.
Thank you. I didn't know there was going to be a Charlie Getz Show per se, but I'm making it up as we go along, because apparently I thought the committee did too, and it worked out really well. I used to give talks, but I found that we were all doing the same crappy things year after year, and the talks were pretty much the same, but you still laugh because you're very polite. So last year, I think they wanted me to do a retro talk, and it was hilarious. But the sound system was such, nobody heard it but me, and I was laughing my head off. I had a great time, but the rest of you are like, huh? Kind of like listening to PBS, British Mystery. Look, let's see what happens. Just like that, you know, I just couldn't hear, nobody understood it. So tonight, I did scramble and scribble some things here, but I do have to mention two pretty serious things first. No, it's not your operation, which is upcoming, because most of you have one, I can see. Hopefully successful, because I really do like listening to people, except for a few over there and one over here. No, this is two groups of people, one of them very small, one very large, that I think we really ought to recognize. And I kind of do this once in a while when I'm up here, so forgive me, kind of personal interest. The first is a very little small group. It's about 3 people, maybe 4, maybe 5, if you really stretch. And they're the ones that kind of got us all together in the very, very beginning of narrow gauge modeling. And they started out with a little tiny magazine called Fine Lines. And it was mimeographed, and it smelled funny. In fact, it's the first time I got high. So I'm doubly thankful for what happened. And then it blossomed into a bigger magazine when 2 little magazines got together and had the Gazette, which was one of those births that maybe should have been an abortion, but however it wasn't, it was really worked out okay. And because of the Gazette, we had this common area where we could all speak to each other. Sometimes not very politely, but we did. We talked to each other and we got together. And then the convention started, which let us see each other face to face. Sometimes not pretty. Most of the time, terrific. So Bob, Irene Brown, Sharon Olson, I think we owe a debt to all the work they've done. Now the bigger group, very recent, but equally important, at least in the last 5 or 6 days. And that is the group that put this thing on. Now, you have to remember, I think it was back in Salt Lake, they made a bid, and they got skunked. They weren't picked, they were trounced on, they were humiliated. We know why now, don't we? Because we've been here. But they persevered, they came back, and they got the bid. And you know, it kind of worked out. And they put a lot of work in. You know, Bob and I and a bunch of other talented people, some of whom in the room, put on a convention once in 2004 in Santa Clara. Some of you may have been there. It was kind of big. It was fun. It's a lot of work. You never get to go to the convention you put on. You hear about it, but you never get to go to it. You're usually here, but you don't see it. It's a very strange out-of-body experience. About Tuesday, you wake up and say, I hurt and I don't know why. Because you put on this convention. So it's really kind of thankless. It really is. But the smiles on the faces, the pats on the back, even the screw-ups that you get to fix are somewhat rewarding. But there's a lot of work. Green shirt, purple shirt, no shirt. Apparently in Houston, no socks. I don't know what it is, but no man in Houston wears socks with long pants. I have not been able to figure that out. Look around. Look at Craig. It's just some kind of a fashion statement. It's a bad one. It's too hot. They're wearing long pants. It's too hot. Yeah, the socks are really going to make a difference. That's a good one. Have you thought about underwear? I don't even want to go. Forget I said it. I just ate. But anyway, to Craig, to Chuck, to Eddie, to Lori, the whole committee, I think we again owe them a great debt of thanks for what they've done. So a couple of comments about Houston. What the hell can I talk about? Just about a perfect experience as far as I'm concerned. Well, let's start with the hotel. Somebody asked me, what does siesta mean? It's a Spanish word meaning funny old people. You can see in royal siesta means funny old people who are a pain in the royal something. It's a great place. I'm glad they picked it. There are about 615 steps to go from one place to another, which is terrific for all of us about 82 years old average age. This is nice. But it's okay, it matches all the layouts. There is not one layout in Houston that's apparently any lower than the second floor of any particular. And the narrower and the steeper the staircase, the better. You would think people in Houston would be in terrific shape, but sadly they look like me most of the time. It's not good. I thought that the parking here at $20 a day was reasonable, but it was $3 a day, which is very nice. But Bob and I got free parking. Yeah, there's this parking lot called the 610 South. You leave your car there at night, it's there the next morning. Oh, did he try the U-turns here? Oh, they're a trip. You have to decide to make a U-turn or a left turn real fast. If you're in the wrong lane, you'll be going in circles for days and days. Houston's the only place I know that has 2 freeway systems. You know why now? See, I have this wonderful Garmin, and it has instant traffic alert and avoidance. She was working a sweat. Get off the freeway, get back on the freeway, get off the freeway. See, the 2 freeways, you have one up here, which apparently is a parking lot most of the time. Then you have parallel roads going right along the freeway for those who don't want to go up here. And they're usually not parking lots, but nobody knows about them except the locals. So everybody's up here, and I don't know why no one's down here going. But my Garmin said, get up! You know, I went down, and I'd go about a mile. She said, get back up, quick! There's a break! Hurry up! And I'd go for about a block, get up, quick! It was the most entertaining thing. I didn't even want to go anywhere. I just wanted to listen to her. So get one of those Garmins with instant traffic. By the way, it burned up. She finally said, I quit. I told, this is a true story. I went to Hong Kong. My wife and I went to Asia for 46 days, which is a great, great trip. Really wonderful. And Lee Riley, you know Lee Riley, invented Bachman. Lee Riley is a terrific guy. Well, he said there's a hobby shop in Hong Kong, and they know him. And there is a train shop in Hong Kong. It's wonderful. And they knew him. The guy knew him. Mr. Lee, funny, was his name, the owner. And he was telling me all about Ray Riley. Oh, Ray Riley! Oh, I love Ray Riley! So I came back and said, Ray, you famous in Hong Kong. Ray Riley is a respected name in Hong Kong. He didn't like that at all, but anyway. That has nothing to do with Houston, but there it is. Traffic. What traffic? Traffic implies movement. As far as I can tell, this is a giant occupied parking lot, which they call the freeway system. I mean, imagine a giant mall where you can park in the lot, but you can't get out of the car. To me, that is the essence of Houston. Now, it's apparently only Monday to Friday. Everybody takes the weekend off, which I think is great. Because today, people were just on the freeway just because you could be. They had nowhere to go. They were just, look at this! The car gets out a second! I mean, there was a kid on a pedal bike doing this, you know. Wow! It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that good. I mean, I've driven in LA, I've driven in San Francisco. Now, San Francisco is a hoot. Because we have people who English is not a first language, it's not even a 15th language. And cars are a foreign thing. So when they drive, it's kind of like the chaos system. They don't drive, they aim. I think I go, yeah. But in Houston, there is driving, but it's very slow. Yet they still have accidents. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you have an accident when you're going 2 miles an hour and result in an ambulance being required? I mean, this is really a tough thing to do. No, it's just a little bit. But there is an advantage to the Houston traffic. A local told me this. There is only one house for every 10 couples in Houston, because the other 9 are in their car trying to get home. So they don't really need it. There's apparently no zoning in Houston, if you know that, but there are some rules. Apparently layouts have a rule that no layout can be less than 20 miles away from the nearest layout. So when you look at that little tiny cutesy map, here we are, a little arrow, a little star, and over here some layouts, and over here some layouts. What they don't tell you is Houston is the size of Vermont. Metro Houston is the same size as the state of Vermont, with better people. Until you talk to them. Then you can't understand a thing they're saying. Y'all from where? Huh? Can I help you? I don't know what that is, but sure. Y'all take a right. If you want to go here, take a right. I said, what do I want to do with a right? When I want to go this way. No, you take a right. Anyway, they're nice people. I lived in Dallas, by the way, for 2 summers. Dallas and Houston are very, very different. Dallas, they're very serious. Houston, they're fun people. They're neat people. And the food is spectacular. They got the best barbecue, best Tex-Mex. We didn't have any of it because we were in a car. We couldn't get it. Registration. Well, you know, it wasn't the biggest convention in the world, but it was one of the best, right? Sometimes small is beautiful, as my wife tells me. As she laughs. So they had about 840, I think, is that what you said? Well, they would have had 1,250 if the other folks could have just gotten here. They will be here Tuesday. Right now they're stuck on the freeway somewhere on their way in. Anyway, that's just some thoughts I had about Houston. Now we're going to get on to the auction, if that's okay with the rest of you. I want to thank the committee for doing this for the Narrow Gauge Preservation Foundation. I had a clinic on it, and people actually showed up, which shocked everybody involved, including me. But the Narrow Gauge Preservation Foundation has been kind of in stealth mode for over 10 years. We've given out more than $1 million in grants and efforts to both prototype and preserving models, significant models. One example of a significant model collection, some of you old timers, that's just about all the room, Len Madsen. Remember Len Madsen from the early 60s, late 50s, had a seminal series in model railroader, Drop Bottom Gone, building the Chama coaling tower and sand house. We have those models. We even have a portion of his 1950s era HOA3 layout. We even have a OOM3 layout, a 4x6 we preserve, half-inch scale models. But our main function has been in preserving and helping preserve significant narrow gauge. So I'm not going to bore you with all that, but I want to give you two quick examples that are very recent. RGS 20, which is just about finished. CRRM, the Colorado Railroad Museum, contacted me as executive director of the organization and said they needed help. And we said, as we always say, what do you need? And they said $80,000 to finish the restoration and transport RGS 20 back. They were tapped out. They had gone to everybody, all of their vendors, or all of their contributors, 3 times for this project, well over $1 million to get the whole thing done. And they had nowhere else to go. We said, we'll give you 40, and you're going to raise the other 40 in a matching fund. Every dollar you raise, we give you $1. And you tell your donors that. And they said they're tapped out, they won't do it. And I said, yes, they will. And they raised $65,000 additional dollars because of that. So because of our help and their help, that engine is going to be under steam next spring, and I think all of you are invited to go watch it and see it. So that's just one thing that we did. If you saw 463 restored, we were the major donor to help restore that engine. That was another project that we felt very, very strongly about. Sam Furukawa was on our board and loves that particular engine. He was very, very insistent that we do all what we could, and we did. And the most recent ones, we like to do things that aren't very sexy. You know, I mean, you look at me, you know that's true. Well, we like to do things that it's going to be tough to raise money for. One of them is moving 168, a T12, a Rio Grande 460, not been in steam since the 30s, moving that from its resting place and on display in Colorado Springs up to Antonito, where it's going to be restored and operate on the Cumbers and Toltec. Now, raising the money to restore it, sexy, easy. Getting $10,000 to move it from one place to another, who's going to, you know, very few people. So we're paying the entire bill for that NGPF. That's the kind of stuff we like to do. So the organization you're supporting tonight, with your bids, and with your checks or money or credit cards, is that organization. And it's made up of some great people. Our board of directors is a stellar cross-section. Bob Brown is our chair, Sam Furukawa, Bob Hayden, Fred Hill, Jimmy Booth, Fred Hamilton, who some of you may or may not know, but Fred was very involved with Calmback and MRIA for many years. We have wonderful people. We have members now. We're growing in memberships, and we have those memberships available. So we are trying to make a mark and, more importantly, make a difference. So without further ado, please remember that when you donate, because that's what you're doing. Your checks or your credit cards will be made out, I think, either to the committee, or I don't know if it's a committee, or to the NGPF directly. Probably, I don't know, but it's going to be a donation to the NGPF. Now, the IRS regs, and I'm not going to give you legal advice, even though I'm a retired lawyer, I'm sorry, recovering lawyer, will tell you that you can deduct what you buy, your purchase price, minus the fair market price of the item that you get. Anything in excess of that, deductible. We are a 501c3, a not-for-profit corporation. So keep that in mind. Most people here need deductions. I know you try with the stuff you buy in the vendor room. It doesn't work, but you can try it. A good friend of mine's a tax attorney, which is terrible. But he said he considers his 1040 his first offer to the government. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't. So I'm going to leave it up to your conscience what you take as a deduction when you buy these things. Now, as always, I'm joined by the lovely Carol Merrill, also known as Don Heimberger, who will be handing me the items, and I will give a description. And we don't take it too seriously. We kind of, oh, thank you. And if you don't bid, he'll take his hat off, and you do not want him to take his hat off. All right, we're going to do it in order. There's about 30 items, so it shouldn't take too long. There's a, yes? One thing.
We'd like to start off the evening with the Houston Convention, and we're going to donate $5,000
Wow.
to the preservation of.
Wow, that's great. We'll give you 6,000. We have magic on this. Well, that way we can take 168 back to Colorado Springs. Nobody wants to pay for that either. Thank you guys and ladies. That is very, very generous, and we appreciate that. All right, I'm going to read the what it is, just to remind you, and then I'm going to. Here's what the rules are. They're very simple.